What if I told you that the person who keeps sending you bills and demanding payments actually has no power over you at all? Imagine someone knocking at your door, yelling that you owe them hundreds of dollars in HOA dues, but you hold the one thing that changes everything: the deed that proves you own the HOA itself. Crazy, right? That's exactly what happened to me. This isn't just another Karen story. This is about standing up against control, exposing lies, and learning that real power often hides in plain sight. The setup: let me start from the beginning. I bought my house in what seemed like a nice community. Beautiful lawns, friendly neighbors, and a promise that everything was managed by a homeowners association. Like many people, I thought an HOA meant safety, order, and shared responsibility. What I didn't realize at the time was that sometimes HOAs become the breeding ground for petty power trips. And at the center of it all was a woman I'll call Karen. She wasn't just a neighbor. She acted like she owned the entire street. Every week, she would show up with complaints. Your grass is too long. Your trash can is too close to the curb. Your car isn't parked properly. It never ended. But one day, she crossed a line. The bill that changed everything. Out of nowhere, she delivered a letter to my mailbox. Bold letters across the top read, HOA dues payment required. She claimed I owed hundreds of dollars in late fees. I remember standing there, reading it over and over. I laughed at first, thinking this must be some kind of mistake. But the more I read, the angrier I became. Why? Because I knew something she clearly didn't. I had purchased not just the property deed, but also the controlling HOA deed tied to my lot. In simple words, the legal papers gave me ownership rights over the HOA itself, the very organization Karen was pretending to represent, Karen's fake authority. But here's the thing about people like Karen. They thrive on intimidation. She assumed that if she printed some letter and slapped HOA on top, I would fold and pay. She didn't realize that I had the receipts, the real documents that could crush her little game. So instead of reacting with fear, I stayed calm. I asked her for proof. Can you show me where in the HOA bylaws it says I owe this money? Her face turned red. She stammered. And that's when I knew she had nothing. The hidden truth about HOAs. Most people don't know this, but HOAs are not all powerful monsters. They only have as much authority as the actual legal documents give them. A lot of homeowners blindly pay fees because they think they have no choice. But the truth is, if you understand the deed, the covenants, and the bylaws, you might find out you have way more power than you think. That's what Karen never expected. She thought she could scare me with letters and threats. But the HOA deed in my possession was stronger than any piece of paper she could wave in my face. The confrontation. So, the next time she came around demanding money, I didn't just say no. I pulled out the HOA deed and calmly placed it on the table. Karen, I said, you're asking me for money as if you run this HOA. But this document proves something you don't want to hear. I actually own the HOA rights here. You don't have the authority to charge me or anyone else. You should have seen her expression. Her eyes widened, her lips trembled, and for the first time ever, she was speechless. Why this matters? This isn't just about me and one neighbor. This story matters for every homeowner out there who feels bullied by an HOA or a so-called authority figure. Too often, people let fear control them. They pay dues, they accept fines, they bow down because they don't know their rights. But knowledge is power. And when you know your rights, you stop living in fear. Life lesson number 1. Don't be afraid to question authority. The biggest lesson I learned is simple. Just because someone says they're in charge doesn't mean they are. Always question. Always ask for proof. Whether it's an HOA, a boss, or even a government agency. Remember, authority is only real if the law backs it up. The ripple effect. Word spread quickly in the neighborhood. People began asking me questions. Wait, do we really owe these dues? Can Karen actually fine us for leaving Christmas lights up too long? When I explained what the documents actually said, their jaws dropped. It was like pulling the curtain back on a magic trick. Suddenly, Karen's power melted away. She could no longer bully people with fake authority. And for the first time, the neighborhood felt free. The hook for Section 2. But here's the crazy part. This was just the beginning. Because when you strip power from someone like Karen, they don't just back down. They fight harder. And the fight that came next? It wasn't just about money. It turned into a full-blown battle for control of the community. CTA for Section 1. So, before I dive into the shocking twist of what Karen did next, I want you to think about this. Have you ever been bullied into paying something you didn't owe? Have you ever let someone intimidate you without proof? If you have, drop your story in the comments, because I guarantee you're not alone. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe, because what happens next will blow your mind. Have you ever seen what happens when someone loses control? They don't just walk away quietly. They cling harder, they get louder, and they fight dirtier. That's exactly what Karen did when I showed her the HOA deed. Instead of backing down, she launched a war against me. Letters, threats, even attempts to turn the neighbors against me. But here's the truth. When you know your rights and you stand firm, no amount of shouting can shake you. This is the story of how one woman's fake authority collapsed like a house of cards. Karen's desperation. After our confrontation, I thought maybe Karen would leave me alone. I was wrong. Within days, new letters started showing up. Bigger, bolder, nastier. She claimed I now owed late penalties, legal fees, and community violation fines. It was laughable, but also dangerous. Because here's the thing, most people don't read the fine print. If I hadn't owned the HOA deed, even I might have panicked. And that's exactly what Karen was hoping for. Her power depended on fear. The fear campaign. Karen didn't stop at me. She went door to door spreading lies. He's refusing to pay his dues, she whispered. If he gets away with it, the whole neighborhood will suffer. Suddenly, I noticed neighbors looking at me differently. Some avoided eye contact. Others asked nervous questions. Karen was building a narrative that I was the problem, the rebel, the rule breaker. And for a moment, I felt the pressure. It's never easy being painted as the villain in your own community. But then I remembered something important. The truth always outlasts the noise. My counter-move. So instead of hiding, I did the opposite. I made copies of the HOA deed and handed them out to every neighbor. I explained, in plain English, what the documents actually said. Look, I told them, Karen doesn't have the authority to fine you. She doesn't have the power to charge you. She's been pretending. The real control sits right here, and it belongs to us, the homeowners. You could see the relief wash over their faces. For months, maybe even years, they had been bullied into paying fees they never truly owed. Now they had proof it was all smoke and mirrors. Karen's meltdown. When Karen realized her lies were falling apart, she snapped. She started yelling at people in the street. She accused me of forging documents. She even threatened to call the police on me for fraud. The irony? She was the one committing fraud all along. And here's the lesson. When someone builds their power on lies, the moment those lies are exposed, they lose control. They lash out, they scream, they threaten, but deep down, they know the truth is already won. The turning point. The final showdown came during a community meeting that Karen tried to hold. She marched in with her stack of fake letters and her usual attitude. But this time, she faced a room full of people who knew the truth. When she demanded dues, one neighbor stood up and asked, Karen, where's your legal proof? Another added, We've seen the deed. Why are you lying to us? Karen froze. She looked around the room, desperate for support. But there was none. The power she once held had completely vanished. The collapse of a false empire. That was the moment everything changed. Karen had spent so long pretending to be in charge that she forgot one key fact. Power isn't about shouting the loudest. Real power is built on truth, respect, and law. Her empire of fear collapsed in seconds. The neighbors no longer listened. The fake fines went into the trash. And for the first time in years, the community felt free from her grip. Life lesson number 2, knowledge beats intimidation. The most powerful weapon you can ever hold isn't money or titles or even loud words. It's knowledge. When you know your rights, no one can trick you, bully you, or control you. Karen's downfall wasn't caused by me shouting louder. It was caused by me calmly holding the truth in my hands. The aftermath. After the meeting, Things got quiet. Karen still lives in the neighborhood, but she no longer comes around with threats or letters. She walks by, silent, avoiding eye contact. And honestly, that's enough for me, because the goal was never to humiliate her. The goal was to free people from her false authority and remind them that they're not powerless. What this means for you. Maybe you're not dealing with an HOA Karen. Maybe it's a boss who takes advantage of you, a family member who guilt trips you, or even a system that makes you feel small. Whatever it is, remember this. Authority only has power if you give it permission. If you understand your rights, if you hold your ground, you take that permission back. The bigger picture. This story is about more than one woman and one neighborhood. It's about the universal battle between fear and truth. Fear shouts. Truth whispers. But when you hold on to truth, no amount of shouting can silence it. The victory that matters. Did I win against Karen? Yes. But the real victory wasn't about me. It was about every neighbor who now walks freely without fear of fake fines. It was about the peace that returned to the street. It was about proving that no bully, no matter how loud, can outlast the truth. Final reflection. If there's one thing you take away from my story, let it be this. Never accept authority blindly. Always ask questions. Always seek proof. And never forget, the power you think someone else has may actually belong to you. CTA for Section 2. So now I want to hear from you. Have you ever dealt with someone who pretended to have power over you? Maybe a boss, a neighbor, or even an HOA like mine. Share your story in the comments below. And if you found this story inspiring, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that knowledge is power. Because when you know your rights, no Karen in the world can control you.